Jumbo, and welcome to this video where we are going to speak about Flexbox. And to start that, let's create a new file from the boiler template. I'm just going to copy this and paste. Tutorial number 11, where we're going to talk about the Flexbox in Bootstrap. So rename this to Bootstrap Flexbox, and then have a container. Then inside the container, I'm just going to comment here and say end of coding live so that we don't go past that. Then inside the container class, we're going to have a heading 4 as always, or a heading 1 that says or speaks about the topic at hand. So take success and a margin y of 3, and it's Bootstrap Flexbox. Let me save and see if it's going to, yeah, the live server is working. Then after that, I'm going to introduce the first topic under Flexbox, and that's the basic Flexbox. And to do that, let me just do a heading 4 with take success and margin top of 3 and basic Flexbox. That works. Yes. Text success. Yep, now works. I had a feeling it was not going to work, but yeah, now works. So inside the div, we're going to have specific items with, so we are going to have a div, and inside that div we are going to have, like, let's say 5 or 6 div items with a class of text, bg, let's say success. Yeah, right. And then I'm going to name each from 1 all the way to 3, 4, 5, 6. If we look at this in the browser, it's going to stack over each other like that. If I change that to, let's say, danger, alternate between danger and success, danger, success, danger, success, yeah. So you see 1 up to 6. If we just apply the basic class on the parent item of dflex, it's going to arrange them in a row. As you can see, it occupies the exact width that we have and then occupies them in a row, as you can see here. So that's how a basic flex is applied. It shifts item from being stacking on top of each other to being a row, and it is dependent on the content that is in it. To apply the next item, which is a flex column, I'll just copy this, paste it below, and do flex column. Then to apply a flex column, of course, we have to apply the default flex item. If I see, flex column is still the same way, but watch what happens if I apply the flex column class. It becomes a column. It gets back to the original. But if we want, we can give this probably a height, but it's not important because it's not going to show what the exact difference is. But just know, if you apply a flex column class, it reverts back to stacking in a vertical format. So that's how you apply the flex column, but we can also apply the same using different screen sizes, and this we pass through this responsive classes. Here I'm going to talk about flex screen sizes. So assuming we want this to only apply when it's let's say in the medium screen, as an example, you're going to apply, of course, the dflex, and we want it to be a flex column by default, like the way it is right now. But once we get to the medium screen point, we want it to be, or the small breakpoint, we want it to be a row. You can just apply the flex SM row. You see, it's going to change, but that's not going to change much because most of the screen sizes are above a small screen size. So if I do MD, you can see it here. If I go beyond that, this is an MD, I mean large. If you go extra large, if you go on small, it stacks. See, it goes back to stacking. So that's how you can involve different screen sizes, and immediately we hit, you see, flex screen sizes, it's stacked until we hit the MD point. And then if you think it's only with one, I can actually change this to be a large screen size, save it. If we pass MD, nothing much happens because we need to get to LG for it to stack, and there it is. MD is still stacked, as you can see here. If we get to LG, that's the large screen size, it goes back to flex. And that's how you're able to apply the screen sizes. If you want this to wrap, let's say I have many of them, I'm just going to copy this. The first one, this deflex, this I'm going to copy it and take it to the end, then copy this again and paste it here. And let's say this is going to be, so basic Flexbox, I want it to wrap. Let's say we have a class, actually, yes, 1 2 3 4 5. Remove this, sorry about that. I just want to put a margin so that we are able to see how it actually wraps from the end. If I put let's say margin or a padding, because it will flex with the content inside, we can actually give a padding of, let's say, 5 all through. And remember to give it a padding, sorry, just give it a padding of 5. If I go up, you see, there's a Flexbox, goes all the way. Let me actually add more, so, and see, can it allow other ones? 1 2 3, so let's say 3 of them. I just used my eye there, you can see. So sometimes it goes all the way up to the end. If I want to actually wrap these items, check what happens. I just apply a class of flex wrap, and yes, anything extra, it just pushes it to the next row. So that's how flex wrap occurs. We can also justify content, and to justify content, it basically means if you want the items to be aligned properly, and I'm going to use the first 3, and let's paste it here and say justification in Flexbox. Then I'm not going to use the flex wrap class, delete that. I'm going to use 3 of these items, then see. Okay, so justification in Flexbox, those 3 items as you've seen. If you want to justify the content, we just do justify, then content, and where you want to justify them. I've picked the end because they were, by default, they are justified to the start. So if I save this content, and it's going to be justified to the left. The same can also, there are different justification options. The same can also be done to justifying this content. Let me do a margin top here of 3, so that it's not on the same, you see, but still justified on top. to the left, to the right. So if we want to justify it to, let's say, around each item and occupy the space around each item, we can just use justify content around. If I save, you see, equally spaced. So there is some content space given to the beginning and even to the end and at the middle points. So that's how you justify content around. If you want it to be justified between, I'm going to copy this because of the margins. Just paste here, and between, we just use the justify content between. Save that. You see, so the difference between justify content between and justify around, there will be space around each item with the justify around, justify between, around, between each item, except from the ones on the farthest left and further right. So that's how between is. It will equally split the items out, depending on the number of items that you have. If I add number 4 here, you'll see it will split the items equally. 4. If I save this and I go, you see, split happens equally on the spaces. So that's how you justify content using Flex. And since we can justify, we can also align. Let's try and emulate that. Let's see how to align using Flex. Alignment, let me just in Flexbox. So if I save this and see, of course, let's still justify there. So I'm going to remove the justification item. Of course, the default class is deflex. We have to put it there. Then to justify this to the end, and let me give probably a height, because we can decide to either justify in a column or in a row, but let's use the flex column. And to apply the flex column, we need to apply that class is going to apply it in a column, as we've seen before. Then to align, we can align items end. Of course, it's going to align it to the right, depending on the size of the item. And to align it to, let's say, the column, end of the column, if I give this a height is equals to height, then let's say 400 pixels. If I save this, let's see, we need to also see if the items are aligned, if these are going to be, how do I explain this? So alignment happens when we apply the items. Flex by itself is going to change the items to become aligned either to the start, the end. Start is here, the end is here, and center is here. So let's first explore all these items and see how they're going to be aligned. Remember, flex column here, this item makes them to be stacked in this order. If it were not, they will be in this order, because that's how a flex item behaves by itself. So we've explored the end item. You can copy this and explore the center item. I'm going to use a margin top of 3, so to separate these items, and then center. As you can see, it's centered here. And then the last one is how to align self, and I don't know how best to explain to align it to self, but we can actually arrange this as these items not relative to each other, but align each item individually. And to do that, that's self-alignment. We will just use a div with a class of course deflex, d-flex. I keep forgetting the hyphen. Then of course we do a flex column because I want it in column. Then inside, let's still give it a height of, we had given it a height of 400, so I don't want it to occupy the whole browser. remove the tab, then of course use these items. So it's going to have the different contextual classes and the padding, or we can actually let's just use, so if you want to align this one to the end, so we can say align. What do you want to align? The self, and then this one to the end. If I save this, you can see first one is aligned to the end. If I want to align this one to the center, I can just say align self center. This one is going to be the center, and then this one, of course you guessed it right, align self start, then to the start. So that's how you align each item in a flex wrapping item. If you have the parent being a flex item or a flex element, you can align the self items or individual items differently. The other item that we can explain is how flex grows, or flex grow class. Let me actually copy this. Flex grow. So this one is flex grow. It grows with the parent element that you've given. So if I have a div with the class of dflex, because we said for you to define a flex item, it has to have that class, then I'm going to use these three items. Boom. Then after that, I'm going to use flex grow on this one. So flex and then grow, and you want it to grow how many, the number items that you want it to grow. So if I do 1, you can see it grows that length, then shares the rest. If I do 2, you can see. But if I use, you get the gist, if I use flex grow 1, it's going to use the majority of the element. So this is how flex grow happens. And this is not dependent on the width. On the small screen, it's going to fit in. It's going to ensure that this first item grows with the browser to ensure you occupy the whole screen. So if I keep shifting the screen width, it also grows with it, okay, until it is extra small and still occupying the same width. The full width of the browser. So that's Flex. See you in the next tutorial, where we are going to talk about cards. It's a very interesting topic. See you there. Bye bye.